Hi, this is Kristen. Welcome to another process video, and today I am completing a layout as a guest designer for Peartree Cutfiles for the month of September. And so I decided I'm going to document a couple photographs of my kiddos. We were riding the Seven Dwarfs ride at Disney in Orlando, and so I chose this Wild Ride cut file, which was obviously very roller coaster themed as my cut file, and I thought that that would be perfect to document. This was actually their first ride ever, and it was a wild ride. They were absolutely terrified. I actually included close-ups of just the photographs alone at the end, and you'll see the expressions on their face. So I thought that as soon as I saw this cut file, I was like, I've got to document this. So I'm pulling in a lot of different ephemera pieces from Simple Stories, and it was, I think it might have been Fun Say Cheese at the Park or Adventure at the Park or something to that effect. And so I'm just working in different ephemera pieces here, trying to decide how exactly I want this layout completed. I did choose to wait to back the cut file until I kind of had this laid out, because I wanted to make sure that whatever I backed the cut file with, the wild ride part of it, I wanted it to, be cohesive with the rest of the layout. So I don't glue anything down yet, but I kind of want to just get a general feel and idea for how I wanted the layout to be completed before I back the cut file. So anyways, usually when I do cut file layouts, which I love cut files, they add so much to a layout. And a lot of time, like really with cut files, I don't feel like you have to use as much of a ephemera, because I feel like the cut file is so much part of your page and can be a majority of your ephemera, that I really like for my cut files to be front and center, because it does take time to cut them out. Sometimes you don't always get the perfect cut the first time, and so you have to redo it. You have to back it. And so I usually, when I do cut file layouts, I will always have my cut file be kind of, front and center along with my photographs. And so I wanted to add some clusters, some detail around the photographs, just so then that way they weren't plain up there. But I didn't want to add too much and take away from, the cut file itself. So I'm just kind of going back and forth on what all I want to use. And of course I had to get that piece that says Such a Thrill there, because I felt like it went really well with the wild ride concept of the cut file. So the cut file technically really is my detail, my ephemera, my large ephemera piece, and also my title. And so I'm trying to decide here, I wasn't sure if I wanted to each letter in a different paper, or if I wanted to back the letters with all the same paper. And I do settle on doing this side on red and the other side on the blue. And I thought that that would work in both the border and the paper that I had backed the photographs with. So I felt like that would make it pretty cohesive. And I didn't want to, ultimately I decided not to do different color papers for each one, because then I felt like then that might kind of detract away from the, the fact that that's a full word. So anyways, I usually am somebody that will glue my cut file and then put it on top of whatever I'm backing it, and then kind of fussy cut around it. But because I felt like this would be, the letters were so fine around where I would be cutting, I didn't want to accidentally cut into the cut file. So I decided what I was going to do was go ahead and trace it. So when you do a cut file like this and you decide to trace it like that to back it, so that you don't show a pencil line, flip the cut file over onto the back of whatever you're wanting to back the cut file with, trace it, and then when you fussy cut it out, make sure you fussy cut a little bit outside of where your pencil line is. So then that way you give yourself enough room to glue the cut file down onto that actual cardstock. So that's what I'm doing here, is gluing it down. And I don't show you that whole process. So I've gotten the wild part backed, and then I'm working on the little roller coaster pieces here. I was going to back them with these little, I actually had paper where it had like little race car roller coaster pieces on it. And so I was going to back it, but then you lost like a lot of the detail. So what I decided to do was just glue it directly down onto the roller coaster, or the little roller coaster pieces on the cut file, and just kind of cut away the white, so that, you didn't see the white popping up. And I felt like that, that looked better that way. And then I'm going to work on the other side and trace the back, cut it out. So that's what I'm doing here. And then I'll do the same thing where I fussy cut each of the letters out and then add a little bit of glue. I always use Nuva Deluxe glue on my glue gun because I feel like with a lot of these cut file pieces, it's, you know, like you want like a fine bead there. So that way you're not getting a bunch of, you know, glue outside of your layout. I mean, the glue dries clear, but, you know, if you see it, it's still shiny, so you still will notice it. So I always will use the glue gun just to make sure I get like a little fine bead there. Then that way I'm not, when I go to back the cut file, I'm not squishing a bunch of glue out from behind it. And here's that paper. So this was the paper that had kind of like this little car. So I decided that would be kind of my roller coasters. And then I use this piece to cut out some little mini bows, which you'll see me kind of put off to the side. I had an idea for those. You will see them come into play here in a little bit. So, and I pull in a couple Doodlebug pieces. These little fireworks pieces are from Doodlebugs. I think it was Fun at the Park or some kind of similar. I think the Simple Stories, they were both kind of similarly named. So I'm just going through the ephemera pieces to see if there's anything else I wanted to add on. I don't want to add on too much to the roller coaster cut file just because I wanted, you know, I didn't want to cover it up. I wanted it to be front and center. But I think kind of what I was having problems with was the right side just looked a little empty to me. So I was kind of like trying to go through the ephemera to see if there was anything I wanted to add. So of course I start kind of messing with the positioning of things. I'm like, maybe this banner would look good over here, but I like it better up here. So I was kind of just messing around with the, you know, the details here. And you can see I'm kind of like, that right side is bothering me. So I keep putting pieces in there. I'm like, no, I don't like that. No, I don't like that. I feel like scrapbooking, a lot of it is just kind of fussing around with things. So I move this over here. I'm like, maybe this looks better over here. And then I'm like, no, I don't like it. I don't like it over there as much as I like it on the other side. So I finally do come up with a compromise here. So I decided, I'm like, what if I put a firework down here? Like that adds in a little bit something to that, but it doesn't take away too much. And so that's kind of what I end up settling on. I do pull it off because I'm like, maybe not. And then I'm pulling in different fireworks pieces. Some of them are pretty big, so I don't want to use those because I felt like that covered up too much of the cut file. So, and then I'm going to get everything set off to the side here and start gluing everything down. So I had already prepped the red paper behind there by cutting out the centerpiece, of course gutting it. Anytime I use paper that's going to be for a border, I usually will always gut it just so then I have that extra paper left over, which obviously I used a little bit of that to back the cut file. So that actually is one reason why I will do that. Even if it's not a ton of paper, it's still, you know, sometimes there's little details on that paper that you would use. So I'm going to go ahead and start gluing everything down. I had a ton of paper to choose from, and I ultimately chose this black paper because I felt like it really helped the cut file to pop off the page. I felt like everything else I was trying, it kind of blended in a little bit too much. So I was really happy with how the cut file looked on the black background. And so there's where the mini bows came into play. I end up using them, even though those were capital I's, I still thought it looked cute to have the mini bows as kind of like the dots on the eye. And then I pull in this Mickey tag over here to kind of complete that firework over there. And you won't see it, I don't show it on video here, but you'll see it in a still shot where I had covered it up with put a word phrase across that part there that I'm working on, and it said like hands in the air. So you will see that on the still shots. And I end up adding the photographs of the kids at the very end, just the photographs, not on the layout, because their faces are priceless. They were absolutely terrified. Their first ride ever. And then my daughter, she had some trust issues after that. It was like every ride we went on, is it scary? Is it scary? And I really was trying to pick ones that weren't too bad, but she didn't like many of them. She liked only the slow moving ones. Like It's a Small World, loved it. Little Mermaid, loved it. The two boys, like after they got through their fear of that one, they end up loving the fast ones. So here are the photos. And my husband, of course, is in the front. You'll see him in the next shot, and he looks like he does not have a care in the world. He's just happy as can be. Thanks again for coming by to watch another process video.